Really beautiful, beautiful weather in the Okanagan today. Boy, I think we did 20 on the heat side of things. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much to all the participants here. The counts are roughly 23 at this point. That's wonderful.
We can't see Kirk and Ann.
What was that last thing?
I said we can't see Kirk and Ann or a variety of others.
Oh,
There he is. Hey,
I'm here.
yeah.
Just having dinner.
Yes, it is awkward that way. So anyway, I'll get going here, everybody. Thanks for hanging on. So welcome to a look at the Social Square Dance program. Now, most of you know that I'm doing the marketing side of things for the BC Square and Round Dance Federation. And under the marketing aspect, the actual programs we present do fit in that I need to know what we're selling. But I am somewhat limited not being a full-fledged caller in on this subject, but I've certainly done some research and done some thinking. So one speculation is, everybody, that the time period for Square Dance lesson startups might be early 2022 now. I mean, on the COVID-19 vaccination front alone, we're all supposed to get a second vaccination when many still haven't had their first yet. Also, in the marketing presentation by Color Lab leader Mike Hogan of Nebraska, he suggested that we should allow for a 3-month spread between the time we get the green light to congregate once again and before we start dance lessons. It's certainly true that the public's going to be somewhat wary of close contact and touching hands after we've been observing pandemic precautions. Let me see if my system will trigger the imagery as I want it to here. Okay. Yeah, okay. So talking about social square dancing, this is from Color Lab's webpage. The new name of the sustainable square dance system that was championed by Jerry Story is social square dancing. And it was based on Jerry's experience in Iowa, showing that teaching fewer calls more thoroughly, retaining new dancers in the early level for a longer period, and exposing them to a broader range of call applications provides for greater success. I know, I know a big part of it too is good choreography. Anyway, Jerry's design contains a number of parts, including a modified entry list that he called Club Level 50, and also a document that contains a detailed lesson plan containing sample choreography that illustrates both standard and extended applications. Yeah, let's just move on to my list if I've got my stuff in the right order. So the Social Square Dance Program basics are 50 calls, 12 lessons, and there it is again, stresses great choreography. And really important is it would be a destination program. Sure, we can have other programs. I won't say the word levels, but we could have other programs. But this would be a standard that the public, especially the post-pandemic public, could consider theirs, and they need not go any further to have some fun on the dance floor. I was going to say, I really like the post-pandemic promotional value in the name. And I put together some graphics. Some of you have seen these already. You know, we could promote, this would be just a template, a rough draft, but we could promote with text and image, you know, reconnect, discover social square dancing, socially reconnect, discover choreographed ballroom dancing, socially reconnect, discover clog dancing. And we have a contra club in Kelowna in the central Okanagan, so they could be socially reconnect, discover contra dancing. Okay, just a moment and I'll find my material again here. I guess what I'm stressing there is that word social is really important in promoting all our dance forms. Oh yeah, there's one more to be remembered here. Let me see. Ta-da! We got to remember our specialty clubs. The Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley in the wonderful city of Surrey has a handy-capable club called the Wheel and Eights. Wheel and Eights. And there's an example of the type of template or promotional page we could put up to help promote them. Socially reconnect, discover wheelchair square dancing. Sorry, I'll be with you here once I knock that image down. There we go. Okay. With regard to the SSD program, I got a statement from the knowledge section of Calder Lab's website. And that statement is, find my text here. It says at this point, even with the publishing of the lesson plan document, SSD or social square dancing still has the status of an experimental lesson system. Now becoming a full Calder Lab program, such as mainstream or plus, requires a vote of the full Calder Lab membership, which by design is a lengthy process. Anyway, I've got the actual calls here. Let's take a look at the actual calls. Not sure whether this is going to come through, just that it's so tiny, but we've squeezed all 50, I'm sorry, yeah, all 50 calls in the 12 lesson modular style on the screen at once. So there's quite a whack of them there to start off in lesson one, as you would think, with some of the simple stuff, do-si-do, promenade, swing. Lesson two, only a couple in there, the star through / slide through, half sachet, roll away, ladies. What's that say? Ladies in men sachet. I think there's a typo there. Lesson three, lesson four again is dealing with square through and grand square. A little more in lesson five. I see 3 items in lesson 6. Lesson 7, a little more complicated, as is lesson 8. In lesson 9, they're dealing with pass the ocean, extend and zoom. Lesson 10, centers in, cast off 3/4, Ferris wheel, partner trade, trade by. Lesson 11, another 5, and lesson 12 to close. They're closing with circulate, fold, cross fold, scoot back, and recycle. Let me find my material here again. Okay. Sorry, everybody, trying to present graphics like this, it's It's a lot of clicking here and there to bring stuff up, etc. Okay, what I was going to move on to is there are some new considerations, and that is largely that we have to consider the needs and wants of the populace in our northern hemisphere country of Canada. I've got a recent travel survey quoting what people during this pandemic are thinking they're going to do after the pandemic. So I'll bring that up here if I can get the right button to click. So the travel survey that, by the way, has just come out April 7, this very month. They say that despite knowing that the pandemic finish line hasn't been reached just yet, 2/3 of Canadian travelers, or 72%, feel more hopeful about traveling. Now it says 21, but I'm sure that's correct, but they're also looking into early 22 at least, maybe Hawaii or Mexico. The other part of this, nearly half of Canadian travelers have used the increased time at home to plan future travel, while 33% have banked. That's interesting. They banked more vacation days, working people. So they're excited about the potential of taking longer vacations in 2021. This leads me to present to you the possibility that we should be looking at some sort of flex program. Okay, let me see if I can bring that up for you here. There we go. We could take the social square dance program and convert it, adapt it, I guess is the right word, to a flexible learning modular program of social square dancing. Same name, but it would still be 50 calls, 12 sessions, but modular in that this is a proposal. Module A could be 6, module B 3, module C 3, and that instruction would repeat over several months. So if people are traveling, or some people are just plain mobile, they might live in Prince George and often like to do a run to Kamloops or Vancouver. They don't. The concern here is the 12 consecutive sessions that is on the table here for the SSD program. So the modular instruction would repeat over several months, which would allow people to pick up the components that they left behind to go on and see Auntie so-and-so or Uncle so-and-so. So especially modules B and C could be taken in any order at the dancer's convenience. Let me see what else we got here. Okay, I've got an actual look at, I'm just going to flip. Okay, this is the mainstream list, but it's been broken down. I got this, Gene, from you, and I'm wondering if I might need some help on understanding this completely. I think the yellow is what they are leaving out of SSD. Does that make sense?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, you see on this is list number 1. Goes down to where they've dropped wrong way grand. Number 17, they've dropped do paso. Likewise, that's through the list. Sorry, I've lost my clicker. Okay, I'll see what else I've got here that I thought was particularly valuable. Just exit that here. Now, I was in a discussion with caller teacher Gord Rudig of Paul River. Gord's not on the system here, is he? Would Gord please raise his hand?
No, I don't see him here. I didn't let him in, so.
Well, anyway, Gord was the lead developer, as most of you know, of the West Coast Square Dance program. He wrote back to me, in our province, people like to take off for warmer places in the winter months. So he's suggesting we could get the big teach done in the early fall. For instance, again, everything's in flux regarding the vaccinations and when they're going to set us free. But for instance, the big teach could be in the early fall. That would be module A, the 6 lessons. Then those who sign up in January are probably more likely to stick around for a while. So again, you can go for the elongated starter module A. And also, if you keep the B and the C the same size, they're interchangeable and give you some flexibility without messing up your module start dates. Let me see. Just take a look at my graphics. Okay. Another aspect is publicity, promotion, paid advertising of post-pandemic lessons. And now, from a promotional angle, there is the distraction of the Christmas season. If we have to do it in early 2022 startup, Christmas is a tough period to promote over, at least in my experience. And there's also an overall competition by other activities seeking people's leisure time, and that's going to be big post-pandemic. Every business, every nonprofit that does similar stuff to us is going to be trying to appeal to the post-pandemic public. If we had the necessary financial elements in place, we could promote the Social Square Dance program as a gift, as a Christmas gift for friends and relatives. In fact, what could be better than presenting others with an opportunity to socially reconnect after the pandemic? That's maybe a bit of a pipe dream because we don't have all elements in place to do such a sales pitch. The anticipated broad interest over demographic groups in social square dancing is something else to be looked at. It might very well include families with children. And the reason is something that's happened during pandemic isolation is people have reevaluated personal interactions. And for instance, dads have grown closer to their children by the fact that they've had to isolate together. That could translate, into an interest over various demographic groups, including families with children. It could translate into an interest in square dancing by families because of the very fact that it's a social recreation of substance with great interaction. It might very well be that moms and dads will want to keep their children close, enjoying the same activity together. So instead of Johnny going off to karate lessons and Susie studying ballet, we might see the kids with their parents on the square dance floor. And that angle is something that we can promote, especially via the media. The other thing I wanted to, let me see, one or two things. I wanted to present for discussion the consideration of separate lessons presented as possibly standard and accelerated in light of the varied rates of learning between the young and old. It's new territory for us that we might very well see a groundswell of interest across the demographic spectrum. So we could very well have children with mom and dad, young adults, middle-agers, and retirees. You can't put them all into the same bundle because there will be different learning rates, especially where the younger folk learn so much quicker. Let me see, what else have I got here? Yeah, I think that's basically it, everybody, for a place to start. And I guess, Jean, if you want to open the mics. I hope I presented enough there. If you want me to go back to any of those graphics, I can. I could send through some links if necessary. So
Can everybody mute themselves if they wish to discuss it? Lauren?
My microphone on. I do have
yes,
one question. Brian, you had mentioned about modules, breaking it up. So probably, like as an example, it would be say the first 6 sessions would be maybe module 1, and then the next 3 would be module 2, and the next 3 would be module 4,
right.
or yeah, breaking it down that way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a unique way of looking at it. I can see one real good benefit of doing that. You could stop at the 6 lessons and have party dances anywhere at that level. And
Good
then,
point, Lord.
yeah, also dancers or people that are learning won't think of it as like a lifetime of lessons, but maybe they would probably have to know that there's them other modules to complete that program, because that wouldn't be a destination level at that point after, say, module 1.
Yeah, I found the graphic there. Let me see if I can throw that up again here.
That actually came from Gord Rudig. The West Coast program is broken up into the 3 modules like that. So it's the same, basically the same thing, but broken into modules.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gord does, yes, he does 11. I think he does gee, what is it now? Is it 6, 3, and 6 or no? I'm sorry, folks, I'm getting confused. I thought Gord did 1 lesson less, but that's fine. So there it is again. We could split social square dancing, and this is all based on us in Canada and the tendency for our fellow citizens to want to buzz off and go somewhere at some point in the fall or winter. This could accommodate that, so they could take the 6 in the fall or the 6 in the early new year, and then pick up the B and C at their leisure. They could do C first and then come back and take the B, and then they've got all of them. And I really like what you said, Lauren. That's a good point. After module A teaching 6 sessions, let's have a party. That's well enough.
I would. I know when Jerry Story and the Callers put this program together, it was devised so that was the teach order really worked good together, because depending on the move, you need it almost like a prerequisite for the previous moves. So if you jump around, like say offer the first module and then module C,
Yeah,
you go to module C, well then you might have a gap in the middle of material that you maybe need to be aware of before you go to module C. I think the jumping around might be a challenge.
I appreciate that. Now, I would want to consult further with our Gord Rudig of Paul River, because he did develop the West Coast program to accommodate that B and C flexibility. So it would need more thought. We'd have to take those lists and see. I agree, Lauren, we'd have to think about it a bit further. Can I make you the head of a new committee?
I know, like Jerry and the callers that put this program together put a lot of thought, and they've got a full program, lesson program, what calls to work with, workshop, say sequences of material for the dancers for the callers to work to the dancers, and it's kind of a progressive series. So the jumping around might create a challenge for the callers and the dancers if you're jumping from one to, say, from A to C, but if you go from A and then B is the next stepping stone, and the next stepping stone is C, I think that might be
Yeah.
a clearer direction.
You
I
know,
just
the whole motivation,
I just pulled up the
the whole
program.
motivation, I'm sorry, I was going to say the whole motivation is post-pandemically, if we experience, I hate using that word over and over, but a groundswell of interest in our dance form, square dancing in particular, will the post-pandemic crowd be up to a 3-month commitment?
Mhm.
I'm not so sure about that. You know,
Valerie
if it's once a month over, or once a week over 3 months.
okay, Valerie and Lane, did you have something you wanted to comment on?
I was just wanting to ask, I haven't looked at this information in quite a while, and I was wondering, the rest of you callers that are out there, and Lauren, in that first 6 lessons that would be given, what you're talking about already having a dance party, what are the chances that in those first 6 lessons, having not viewed that list myself recently, that if we had a lot of people that fell into that, I can't commit for too long, that our social square dancing could become what were those first 6 lessons, and we could still have a pretty good party because we saw that there was a lot of people out there that we were losing because we were extending it to those other
Mhm.
sets of 3 lessons. Now, what are there enough moves in there to have a really great dance party on a
Yeah.
regular basis once a week for, you know, a whole season, and then do the whole thing all over again the following season?
Mhm. There's a fair amount of material there. Like, of course, the standard stuff, like, the promenades, right and left grands, weave, or stars, courtesy turns, wheel rounds, slide through, star through, California, bend the
I,
line.
I can't quite read. Is circulate in number 5?
Yes, circulates. You've got all the different circulates and trades, and chain down the line, lead right, veer left, and whatnot. Uh, Lesson 6 has right and left through, flutter wheels, and sweep a quarter.
Well,
So yes, you do have quite a bit. Once you get into lesson 7 and on, you start getting into the ocean wave material.
not having a wheel and deal to work with could be an issue.
Yeah. Wheel and deal falls in lesson 7, which would be the very next. But like any lesson program, we can, as callers, slip in a move that you really want to work. As long as you work it in, shouldn't be a problem.
You could still make it work.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a thought that I had, that because I'm just listening to what was being presented. My thought too has been the idea that we need to be able to captivate people and that they don't have to make a very long commitment.
Hmm.
Today we are in a craft dinner society, and if they can't have it done in 5 minutes, they don't want to participate. And that's where, in my mind, I was thinking the idea of having something with a little less moves in it, and that we could just be having like the good old social dances that were, everybody knew how to polka and foxtrot and 2-step, and you had your dance at whatever hall was open for whatever weekend was going on, and everybody danced. And if we could get our social square dancing at that kind of a level that somebody can come in, come to those first few lessons and then dance every weekend if there was a dance in their area, then maybe we would hang on to more people. But that was just my thought on it. Thank you for the floor.
Hmm.
I really appreciate hearing this because we're in new territory, everybody. We
Hmm. Hmm.
we got to think this through from the ground up, and I just don't want to blow it. I mean, I've been
Okay.
working on marketing this activity for so long, and I just see this as an incredible opportunity. Let's not blow it. We sure got to organize this. Anybody else?
Norman, did you have something? You're muted. You're muted, Norman. Hold on a second. Let's get him to unmute.
Oh, yeah, okay.
If you don't mind, I'll pop in for a quick question, Brian.
Sure.
I like the concept of having it split down into the ABCs and the fact that with an A session, if you will, that you could have a pretty good dance. I know Gord Rudig calls a fantastic dance with a very, very limited West Coast thing. And we've danced to him and you'd never know the difference because he's an excellent caller. My concern is that if we start going A and then having an option of calling a C and then a B or a B and then a C, we're going to end up in the same boat as what we are now. Nobody knows which way the other guy's going, and you're going to have dancers coming who've learned A and B, and the other ones are going to come who have learned A and C. So
Yeah,
we're going to
I
end
think,
up in the same dog food mess that we got now.
well, I think that Gord Rudig's idea is everybody does module A. And then module B and C, like if you're going to be away for B, then when it starts the next cycle, you can pick B up. And I think that's the way Gordon meant it to be, is that if you miss something, you could pick it up in the next one. So you wouldn't have to repeat everything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but no, that means that everybody takes A, but if you miss B, you don't go to C without doing B.
Yeah, well, that's just it. You can pick up C without doing B, but you'd have to talk more to Gord. Brian was talking to him about it. Norman, you had a comment, but you weren't unmuting yourself. So did you want to try again, unmute yourself? And Norman.
The easiest way to unmute yourself is to just press the space bar, and then when you're finished, let go. Except don't everybody hold their space bar down at once.
Are we having problems getting Norman to come up there?
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute, but it seems to be not
There
being
we are.
working.
Okay.
There we go.
Got
There you
me?
go. Yeah.
I was just wondering, with regard to the first 6 sessions, if people would come out 2 nights a week, and you can almost have it done in a month for people who are traveling, and that would maybe you might even condense in the second session in this first before Christmas. I don't know if people would come out 2 nights a week, but that would certainly move it along quite quick.
Well, there's also the thing about the callers too. Are they going
Yeah.
to want to try and do that?
I don't know at this point. That was just a suggestion.
I appreciate that, Norman, because the floor is open to anything. As I say, I don't want to blow this. We got to keep focused on what Mike taught us, Mike Hogan, about serving the needs and wants of the new dancer prospect public. What do they need to fit into their lifestyles? And yeah, that was one of my concerns, that the 12 lesson SSD program could go to 6 weeks if you did it twice a week. But I don't know, would the post-pandemic public be interested in that frequency?
I don't know.
Anybody else got comments?
Gene, I wanted to follow up Dave Littlefair. Boy, it's nice to have you on the system if you're still with us there. He's asking me, oh, everyone got this. There's always the ABC program that would work for something like that. I remember the ABC program. I was enthusiastic about it. I think it was Nasser Shakur, a professional caller in the States, developed it, possibly with a team of others. And as I understand it, he was very disappointed that it didn't take off. But it was a modular system similar to what we're discussing here. And maybe it should be revisited as to what all was in that. That goes back a few years. Are you able to elaborate, Dave, on that any further?
Merv, did you have something?
I just want to say that I've done the West Coast program for many years, and then we switched to the Color Lab 50 for 1 year. Now it looks like we're switching to SSD. And if I'm doing it, I will be teaching A, and then in correct order. There won't be twice a week. There won't be any A's go to C, and then it's got to go in the right order, because I don't think it'll work the other way. And there's probably no other callers that are going to be helping to try to do it twice a week or any other situation. That's
Merv,
my opinion.
Merv, can I understand that clearly? You think that we should go with all 12 sessions consecutively? Is that what you're summarizing?
No, that's what I would and plan to do. Everybody else has to do what works for them.
I'm going to interject here because I plan on doing the same thing as Merv, is doing the 12 in order. The modules was kind of a surprise. Kirk, did you have a comment?
Yep. I guess I might be raining on some parties here, but the floor is open. I've talked with another senior caller about the 12 lesson plan. We think it's optimistic. That first lesson is a doozy. That first lesson is the most important lesson, because that's when you're introducing new dancers to other dancers, and they're having to learn a new language. And you can't inundate them with a huge number of figures on that first night, or else otherwise they just walk away and saying, it's too much. So the 12 weeks really becomes 13 weeks. Now, you can't teach for 13 consecutive weeks in a row. You have to have at least one dance in there where you're going to have just a review, where you don't learn anything new. It's just an opportunity for the dancers to say, I want to review this, I want to review this, and sort of do what you do to try and make it stick a bit better. So 13 weeks now becomes 14 weeks, or maybe 15 weeks. You throw in Easter, or you throw in Christmas when people go to Hawaii, and this is what's happened to me. Some of my students go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. They come back, I need to review. So there's some more slippage there. So the 12-week program realistically is not 12 weeks. It's something longer than that. Because dancers don't walk away at the end of the night with perfect retention of everything you taught them. Some students do, because they go home and they practice, but the majority, they don't. They come back the next week and they need to review what they learned the week before. So 12 weeks is not 12 weeks. It's something greater than that.
Lauren?
Can I finish?
Yep.
Yep, finish.
In Victoria, we have what might be a different situation than other cities in the province. I guess we're blessed in the sense that we have 4 currently mainstream dance clubs. We have a plus club, we have 2 round dance clubs. And we have mainstream dancers that move between the clubs and go to each other's clubs' dances. And we're cognizant that if we start to have dancers that graduate SSD, because it is a destination program, that they could be limited in going to other clubs' dances. We're going to Campbell River. We're going to a festival. We're going to the States. Because now they know something less than mainstream, and they have to be isolated within their little dance community. That causes an issue in Victoria, where we have 4 clubs that are currently mainstream. And how do we isolate these dancers from other clubs if that's the path we want to go down? So there's 2 things that are top of my mind. Number one, the 12-week program is not 12 weeks, it's something more. Number 2, how do you isolate these dancers in a way that allows them to go to other clubs and dance, but doesn't cause a square to break down where they're in a mainstream dance? Obviously, they can't dance mainstream. Now, one thing I'd also add about Victoria is that the teach doesn't end when the class is over. We also have summer dances. Those are put on by the Collar Teachers Association jointly with the LBI WSRDA. We encourage the dancer graduates to come to the summer dances to further develop their skills. So they're really not full dancers in my mind for at least a full year until they show up the following September, because we offer them the summer dances every week to come out and practice their skills. So it's not just a matter of 12 or 13 or 14 lessons. It's also coming to the summer dances. They can dance with other dancers, hear other callers call, and become more familiar with the square dancing, the opportunity. So having taught the SSD program, I guess what I've taught, we take the SSD and then we add on what we need to get to mainstream. So, but it's not 12 weeks, it's something more than that. You have to isolate the SSD dancers from the mainstream dancers, otherwise squares will break down. And lastly, the teach doesn't end at the end of 13, 14, or 15 lessons. It goes on and on after that. In Victoria, we facilitate that through the summer dances. So I'm not anti-SSD. I just see it in an environment like Victoria, where we have multiple clubs. Either we all go SSD, or we have to create some other dance opportunity for SSD dancers. That's more work for callers. It also means that we have to rely upon angels to come out and support the SSD initiative. And there's been talk tonight about having lessons several times a week. In Victoria, I'm lucky because as a caller and as a teacher, there are angels that come out and support me. But I'm also cognizant that these angels have other things to do. They have grandchildren, they might have jobs, they're going dancing during the day, they're going round dancing, they're going A1, they're going plus, they're doing something else. And I'm very cognizant that I do not want to impose more work on angels who are just wanting to dance. That's my piece.
Okay, I'm just going to stick in a comment here before Lauren talks. I taught before COVID, I taught the Caller Lab Condensed program, and we were done in 12 weeks, and it's not that much different.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren?
Okay, yeah, the SSD program, the 12-session program that Bill Harrison and Tim Mariner put together a number of years ago, the Club 50, the West Coast, they're just a condensed version of the full mainstream. There's a number of moves taken off. There's a few of the awkward calls like thars that are harder to teach. The dancers, have a harder time dancing them, harder time to learn them, take more time to teach. But I've worked the 12 session, I've worked the SSD program over the last number of years, and I've had a lot of success with the teaching of it. The dancers have no problem grasping the material. It does take more than 12 weeks because we all know quite often at the start of the lesson program, we have the first night or two is open because we're hoping to get more beginners, and then you start progressing forward. So you use the first lesson program, maybe the first one, maybe first couple nights, and then you may start progressing forward. And maybe by the third night, I will add a little bit more than lesson 2. It just depends on the dancer's skill set as they're learning. Some dancers learn faster than others, but the destination of the whole program, once that is done, it's recommended that you don't start adding all the different permutations of all the calls. It is mostly all done from standard positions, nothing extra. Like if, for example, on the SSD program and the Club 50 and probably the West Coast one, the swing through is a swing through. But if we taught that and then we start working swing through from a tidal wave, but we're in a left-hand wave, so you have to understand swing through starts with the right. it's like teaching a whole brand new call to the dancers. And maybe that's what we're getting too far on as callers for our entry level people. We need to give them dancing where they're just dancing the material, not having to think that hard with all the extra permutations. And that's what the SSD program is designed more as. So, of course, you could be, instead of 12, it could end up being 14, 15 weeks to complete the program. But you're not taxing the dancers with a lot of extra material. And it is a destination program. I know one of the big concerns I've heard is, well, where do the dancers go after they finish? Well, it's a destination. Well, you create an infrastructure. I've already heard some of the conventions in the States are going to be providing as an SSD level hall for them dancers to go to. Just like, instead of having a basic hall, they'll have an SSD hall, and then a mainstream hall, then a plus hall. So it's just a modified level of the mainstream. So we have to start creating an infrastructure as we start finishing the program. This concept of, module A, module B, module C. I think, what's his name that made that presentation? One of his comments was, we got to get the dancers dancing, or the beginners that are taking lessons dancing quickly and getting them to just dance. What's to say you can't have a few party dances partway through your lessons where you're not teaching anything? Maybe have a special party dance on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know about pool lunches and suppers at this point in time because of the COVID, but that could be something down the road, doing something socially with them on top of just dancing at different thresholds as you're going through the lessons. Because that's what they're there for. What's the main reason why people get into square dancing at the beginning is for the sociability and get dancing. They want to dance. We don't want to create professional students where they're learning forever.
And
Okay.
Nick?
Yes, I think one of the dangers we're looking at is we're expecting these new people who are coming into our social dancing to be like us.
Yeah.
We've spent years perfecting our dancing. It's our life. It's absolutely our life. It is not the life for the new dancers. We want to give them a nice experience. They come in, they dance, and maybe they don't come next week, but they come the week after. So we have to be, easy going on them. But it's a whole different philosophy.
Mhm.
We have to realize that we're not making square dancers. We're making social square dancers who drop in and they're going to do standard applications. And if the caller wants to along the way, he can insert something a little extra for one evening. He could introduce some new move or an extended application of a move they've learned, but they don't see it again. That's it. They're not going to learn that and have that in their menu. They have the 50 moves of SSD and standard applications, and that's what they dance. They come in to have fun, to dance, to listen to good music, and have a ball. And that's it. They're not going to make square dancing their lives. That's what I think.
Anybody else have a comment? Lauren?
Yes, I do, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
I totally agree with Lauren in that I think I have never been a caller, unfortunately. Wanted to be, but somebody that I live with wouldn't let me be. So I've been on the outskirts, but we have also been angels with our club for over 30 years and I thoroughly enjoy it. The problem being is that we tend to get into the all position dancing in new classes. And I mean, come on, it's hard enough to learn how to do it the right way until then all of a sudden you start doing it opposite. That's just doesn't work. People can't follow that. One week you do it one way, one week you do it the other way. All position dancing should be left until you're well into your full mainstream if that. And the biggest problem we have here in Victoria, as Kirk said, we have 4 clubs, but the problem with that is that all 4 clubs are teaching different moves at different times, so we couldn't have a dance if we wanted to.
Anyone else got a comment?
I'd like to add something else. My situation in Williams Lake is so different from the situation on Vancouver Island on the Lower Mainland. I'm an isolated club, as all Region 5 clubs are. The nearest club to me is 150 miles away. You know, it's not next door. I can't exchange ideas. I can't exchange students. I'm by myself, and that's fine. I like that. But I cannot interact with other callers, and it doesn't matter to me what the hell they're doing. I don't care. So I can do my thing here in Williams Lake, and I believe that the SSD has potential. And I think I'm going to start, if I do get beginners. This is another thing, by the way. Everybody's absolutely convinced that people are going to come flocking to square dancing. Believe me, they're not until way into 2022, if they come. So if I get new dancers, I shall teach for the first 12, 14 weeks or so. I'll do the SSD program with them, and we'll see where we go from there. And it may be, you know, I don't know how many of my club are coming back. There's not very many anyway. So it's a whole different ball game from you lucky people who have 4 or 5 callers next door, and you have, you know, 20, 30,000 square dancers already. I have 12, maybe. All, you know, that's the club. So you can't tell me what I can do to match what you're going to do, because it doesn't matter what you do. I don't care what you do. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay,
Can
any
I
other
ask-
comments?
Can I ask Nick, you'd, at the least you'd want to prepare your dancers for some out of area dancing, but I was just noticing Dave Littlefair says the majority of dancers don't want to visit other clubs or go to conventions or move up to another program, and that SSD takes care of those dancers who just want to dance somewhere and socialize. That, I think that's what you're concentrating on, Nick, isn't it, for Williams Lake? But you'd want to see SSD available to them if they went up to PG or down to Kamloops, wouldn't you?
Well, if they want to travel, we'll have to talk about it with them. Because the club I'm calling for right now, they don't travel anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
we're ancient. I'm just into my 80th year now, 81st year now. I'm getting old, and I don't want to travel. You know, I don't travel, and I'm not interested in calling in other places particularly. So I don't think these new dancers coming in want to know the history of square dancing and how we used to do this and how I dance plus and you. No, please, all my angels, so-called, don't do that. They don't start talking to the new dancers about getting into plus. Or we don't do plus anyway, luckily. So it's a whole different ball game here.
I did want to say that being that marketing is my angle, a consistent program offering is a lot more marketable, and it can cross over, at least it's through the media. We can be on provincial media, regional media, local media, and the message is all the same. So it certainly interests me that we have some sort of standard in the dance presentation. I also wanted to mention, being that we've got a Contra club in the Central Okanagan, I've been looking at Contra dances on YouTube, and if it's any example, those people just have a riot. It's not a consistent dance offering, meaning it's like occasional, maybe 4 times a year, but it's a big party, non-alcoholic, and they just have a riot, and it attracts a huge number of young adults, and they learn on the spot. It's the nature of Contra that the caller is going to guide you.
Have you noticed, Brian, that they are a particular type of person, and they are totally different people from square dancers?
Yeah, I thought they were odd myself. Yeah.
Yeah, look at them the next time. And I see that they're all dancing to a live band, and I'm getting onto this whole thing now of the federation is saying we have 4 types of dancing we should be promoting. You know, it's round dancing, square dancing, contra, and clogging. And I used to call contra up in the Caribou here, and really enjoyed it. But it's a different contra to what you see on YouTube. That is a traditional contra, and it's a fewer movements. They always have a live band. And if you listen to the music on that, it's really boring. Anyway, that's a different topic.
They're just out for a good time. I was going to say, it's really hard to get our minds around this fact that we anticipate we'll be in very new territory. A new demographic might only be interested in SSD and not seek other dance occasions, similar to what you face there in Williams Lake.
Exactly.
They're just out for a good time. Sure, if there's a curriculum of 50 calls, they'll stick with it. I was just wanting to back up. I really appreciated, sorry, I'm looking at names. Did we lose our Victoria caller?
No, Kurt's still there.
Yeah, I appreciated what you said, Kirk. I was wondering, again, trying to think from a marketing angle and post-pandemically, should we entertain a splashy big intro dance where the participants would come looking for a social evening? They do not need to know anything. And at that special splashy startup intro dance, you'd teach them quite a few of the simpler calls in SSD. And then might that take the edge off teaching the rest, the full 12 lessons? I might as well squeeze in what I've made notes of. A younger demographic promises to have much better retention of calls as well. They'll remember, whereas the older folk generally need lots of review. So that's new territory too. One more note here. What have I got here? Yeah, setting a standard is, from a marketing point of view, is really helpful. I'm done. Who's next?
I'd like to comment on what Nick was saying about the idea of what it is that we do now and what it is that we need to do for the future, and what that looks like for the new demographics that are coming in, as well as the instant gratification that we all seem to want to have in today's society. And if I can just remind everybody that, at least in my mind, square dancing, when we started square dancing and to this very day, has always been about family. About once you knew how to square dance, you were a part of a family. It didn't matter where you went, whether I was in Vancouver or if I was somewhere in New Brunswick or across the sea somewhere in China or something of that sort, or Japan, that I was a part of a family if I knew how to dance. And I think with the new, for lack of a different term, levels of dance, we have the levels of dance that we have now. Those of us that are at those levels are going to continue to enjoy them the way we always have, and that there is room in our family for a new, dare I say it, level at the social square dance. Because what it's all about is the idea that we are all having fun and we're all part of a family. And just because I like to dance a lot of plus doesn't mean I think any less of the person that wants to dance Main Street. And if I mention plus, they look at me like, what planet did you come from? I've never heard of that move. We're, you know, and if we remember that it's about family, about socialization, and that we can all dance at different levels and have these different levels, and that it doesn't matter, so long as the other fella from Vancouver was saying, and Lauren was saying, that we've got the infrastructure to put people in to whatever dance levels we end up with in our areas. I think that's what will round everything out.
Thank you, Valerie. I think you said that very, very well. Any other comments?
Yeah, I might.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, I'm new to the West area here, coming from Ontario, originally coming from New York. Some of you that have danced long enough probably remember me back into the 60s. I've called for a few years. What we have to do is remember that society has changed since the 80s from what it was when many of us first learned to square dance. I remember our first square dances and the square dancing I used to call when I first started. It was an evening of entertainment. We did a contra or two. We did mixers. We did rounds. It was the beginning of round dance cues. We didn't even have that at that time. But we went for an evening of enjoyment. Now, at that time, the husband went out and worked all day. The wife stayed home and worked at home all day. And they had mixed feelings about going out at night. But once you hooked the guy, it didn't matter, because once you hooked the guy, you had him, and he'd go dancing forever. That's not happening now. Now our families are, both parents are out working outside the home. They come home, they're tired. One takes one bunch of kids to one activity, another takes the other kids to the other activity. So there's not a lot of time in their life for hobbies and things like this that take a lot of practice and time. So I think that the social square dance thing fits that bill great. The other fact is, I'm in the boat with many of you. I'm getting older. I don't need that many things to do. I want to go socialize. I want to have fun. I want to dance. Now I do call challenge, so I can't, you know, I I like the calls, all of them. However, for the older demographic, we need the social dancing. We need to back up a bit, you know, slow down. You know, you're making me run, Dad. Slow down. Let's dance and socialize. But you know, this is a marketing thing, Brian. And as callers, we're marketeers. What we tell the dancers becomes their opinions. And Dave, you say that many dancers don't want to go to conventions and festivals and all. Well, many times we don't tell them how much fun it is, or it could be. Not that they have to do it, but it's fun. It's one more thing. Doing a banner raid, going to another club. Lauren had on his virtual dance last week, Darren Galena. He shut his dance down that night and brought them all over to Lauren's place. What a great thing. It's 12 the groups. We had a great time, you know? So even though, you know, I do call the higher levels a lot, but I love the beginners. And for Nick saying that the first night, to teach that first night of social square dance stuff, I don't know what you're doing, but that's a beautiful night of dancing. There's not too much stuff there at all. Now, Lauren and I both have done caller schools. I've done them for 40 years. And, you know, perhaps what we need to do is get back together as callers and say, how do we use some of these basics in an interesting way that's not so challenging, but it's still interesting? How many things have you forgotten to use over the years? You know, how many times have you done a different kind of a grand square? Ladies chain from a different position. It's still a ladies chain. They pull by, they get courtesy turn. You can do it. So I think as callers, we're gonna have to relearn some steps. We have to, you know, we have to get with today. Society has changed. We've got to change. We've got to fill the niche they need. So anyhow, that's my sermon.
Joe,
Thank you.
I wanted to say how wonderful it is to have you join us, because I respect you, respect your name, and you've got such wonderful background. I was going to say something else. We've had several of these sessions where we've addressed things like image, like social media use, things like that. But one of the highlights was having Mike Hogan, Caller Lab leader, speak to us. He did 2 sessions speaking from Nebraska, and Mike developed the Caller Lab marketing kit. But he had some wonderful points to make. The biggest one right off the start was that we have to meet the needs and the wants of the demographic that we're appealing to. One of the examples is we can't hold dances for retirees starting at 8 at night. Many of them don't want to drive at night, for one. You might put your retirees in on a Wednesday afternoon at 1. And then you really can't expect families or young adults, working people, to be out very late on a weeknight. Don't expect to see them on a weeknight. So you got to plan, I don't know, maybe a Friday night. How about Sunday afternoon at 1 for the families and for the working people who would surely be off on a Sunday. The other thing about needs and wants is Mike was pointing out that folks who are in their 50s are turned off by any lesson location that might be a seniors hall, because they have the mindset that they're not, at least not yet, seniors, and that kills it for them right there. I just wanted to bring those up because I thought they were really relevant to how we meet the needs and the wants of the people we're reaching out to. Any comment, Joe?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Good point.
Okay, you had made a real good comment about meeting the needs of the people that we're trying to sell our square dancing to. I've got a real good example of that. I went down to Spokane a number of years ago. I was there for I think it was the Salmon Barbecue or one of their Western Dance Centers events. But I got there early, I was there early Saturday morning. So I went down to the Western Dance Center to see if anything was happening. This was like in May, late May, Saturday morning. They were holding a class lesson, and they were just starting their class lessons on a Saturday morning. We are so ingrained in our mold. We have to have our lessons on Monday night at such and such time, and that's the way it's going to be. We don't change. They held the lessons when they could get their beginners to take the lessons that fit their time constraints. You just said it, Brian. You know, you got young families. Well, they're busy taking their kids to maybe hockey and whatnot in the evenings, or they've got other events. Kids are doing homework during the weeknights. They got to get to bed earlier. Variety of situations like that. We have to find, set up our lesson programs that fit what the people out there in the public need. And that's the other thing is our program that we've got right now, which is the mainstream program, which is the first destination. There's very few basic programs running anywhere. There's very few where that is a destination level. The destination level is mainstream or even plus, especially in the bigger centers, especially in the States. That's the destination. It has not worked. Our numbers, if you look at the numbers over the many years, it's gone down once that mainstream program became approximately the 60 to 70 amount of moves. Once that came to play, the numbers started dwindling. When I took my lessons, it was 12 weeks back 50 something years ago. I was dancing by Christmas time. I was taking bus trips to Edmonton and Calgary to dances after Christmas. 2 dances. I was dancing. There was no teaching. We just danced. That's all I have to say.
So something that concerns me too is who's in control here. And to put it kind of bluntly, when Mike did his presentation, his marketing presentation, he was pointing out that there really aren't there's no overall leadership, that the club executive is the leader for that given club. They select the caller, they give the caller a certain amount of leeway, but there are some guidelines. I'm just not sure how we can direct this. I'm a little disappointed we don't have a flood of callers on this session, but I sure appreciate all of you that are with us. What do you think about that? Who's in control?
I think the first step is doing what we're doing right now, is that we're talking about it. And the more we talk about it, the more minds will start thinking about a new way. Recognizing maybe our program is too big as an entry level or a destination level, the way it is right now.
I can tell you right now, Brian, who's in control of our club. That's me, myself, and Marianne. I mean, it's not that we're demanding and it's just that nobody else wants to take control. We have a president and she's very good. We have an executive and they're excellent too. But I control the program Square Dancing. Marianne controls the Round Dance program, and we do what we think is best for the club. And and I've been calling for this club for 40 years, so 42 years now. So it must be working.
I guess the only element, Nick, is what you mentioned earlier, that you're rather isolated in Williams Lake. And when it comes to Victoria or the Fraser Valley, then there needs to be more coordination between club leaderships such that there is more commonality, right?
I think one of the big problems with the Lower Mainland, say Region 2, for example, and probably Region 1, is you've got the old guard in control still. They've been in control for 40, 50 years, and they don't want to relinquish control. And we've seen that over the years. And I'm lucky because I don't have that in Williams Lake. The dancers are not interested in being in control.
Yeah, I've got a prescription here. It says on the vial, please release me. So we could distribute that broadly and have a fresh start. That was supposed to be funny.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get the point.
May I?
Sorry, I'm just gonna, Kirk has been waiting to say something. Kirk?
Hey, I'm the caller for the Country Cousins in Victoria. As I mentioned before, we have 3 other mainstream clubs in Victoria. I'm also the president of the College Teachers Association, so we meet when we can. Unfortunately, COVID has curtailed that to some extent. And one of the things that we do talk about is a common teaching platform and how do we work together to serve the interests of the 4 clubs. We have some clubs that are led by the caller. We have some clubs that are led by executives. I don't think that really matters too much. I know that the Mavericks, which is another club in Victoria, and the Cousins were proposing to have a joint class for a variety of reasons, and we'll have to determine what platform we use. But the question was asked, who's in charge? I guess it's an amalgam of the executives and the College Teachers Association and the WSRDA to sit down and decide where we're going to go from here and structure our lesson plans for the future.
Okay, who else was trying to speak there? There was somebody who was going to say something and okay, go ahead.
Hi, I am a Victoria dancer, and it's an interesting scenario that somebody has brought forth. Who's going to decide this? Who's going to make the decision? Who's the leader? Actually, you're right. There are so many people that are involved in the strategy of which the teaching should take place. But as a result, personally, it's only my personal view that once the caller teachers have discussed it and the ramifications of this or that, I think that it should be taken back to, I feel that it should be taken back to all the clubs that are involved in that, because it's going to involve their own club and their own dancing, and which direction do they really feel that they want to go.
Anyone else? No, Brian? Oh, hold on. Lauren's got us another oh, hold on. Lauren, before I let you talk.
Yep.
I think Murph's been trying to talk for the last 15 minutes.
Every once in a while I have a thought, but they don't last long. I just wanted to mention that I'm from Kamloops and in Region 9, and there our 3 clubs in Region 9, I think that will be teaching new dancers this coming year. And we have, between the 3 groups, we've all agreed to teach the SSD.
Yep.
So I think that will help the whole region to grow if we're all on the same page.
Yep.
Next.
Lauren?
Okay, yeah, one of the challenges that I've been hearing is, you know, just like earlier you mentioned about the old guard, you know, that has been dancing for a long time, and you know, okay, we're going to teach this SSD. What's going to happen to mainstream? Well, the mainstream can still be there, but the SSD program is so little difference in look in comparison to the whole mainstream program. There is very little difference in the look. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. The club I call for here in Calgary, you know, I was going through we'll call it the SSD program. I think it was a 12 session program, which is basically the same or very similar. And we always held an anniversary dance it was late November, which meant I was 3/4 of the way or 4/5 of the way through the whole lessons that I was teaching. And partway through the evening, this anniversary dance, we had dancers from all different parts of Calgary. And I was talking to one of the dancers that's been dancing for a long time, and I asked him, "What level am I calling tonight?" He said, "Mainstream." "I'm calling mainstream, am I?" "Yeah, you're calling all the moves, pretty well all the moves." You know, he couldn't figure out which moves I was not calling. I was actually calling the SSD program. He could not tell what moves were missing off the list, because with the SSD program, there's a few moves that are not on the list that we don't call very much anyways. You know, it's called frequency counts. Yeah, they do that quite often at the national conventions in the States. They do frequency counts quite often. How many moves are called in each hall, and how many calls are not called in each hall, depending on the program. And it is amazing that there's a bunch of calls on every level that are not called very much. The dancers don't miss them. If they're not called, they're not going to miss them. And that's the nice thing about the SSD program. People aren't going to miss a few of these awkward calls, and some of them are more directional calls anyways. So there is a lot of value to the SSD program, as long as we create an infrastructure after. Another good thing about it too is the dancers, when they exit, they're not required to know all the moves from every different permutation. You know, they don't know. They are not dancing by definition. They're dancing the calls. And when they come out, they'll be a little bit more proficient. That means the rest of the dance community, they're not going to be getting as upset with them dancers because they can't dance. You know, they'll be dancing what they know. If we call what they know, if we start calling above what they know, well, then that's a problem. You know, the problem is, you know, if we start sending them dancers that have learned just the SSD program to a mainstream dance, guess what's going to happen? They're going to start breaking down because they won't know all the material.
Merv, would you like to comment on what Region 9 is going to be doing for their dances?
Oh, yes, our association just voted at our AGM on our association dances, which there are 6 of them per season, will be 1+ tip, and the remainder of the tips will be alternating mainstream and SSD. So about half the tips will be mainstream, half the tips will be SSD.
And the SSD will be at the level that they've learned to that date.
Yes, right. Thanks, Gene.
No problem.
I'd like to, sorry, I'd like to ask Gene, did you have more, Gene? I'll wait here.
No, that's good.
I'd like to ask you callers about that issue mentioned earlier in the presentation about rates of learning, especially if there is promise with good publicity, promotion, and paid advertising of getting a large demographic spread of interest. The younger folk, kids especially, but also younger adults, will learn at lightning speed, while the older crowd will take a little longer. How can we address not turning them off? I could see the younger crowd just saying, oh, this is a drag, this is too slow. I've seen that actually at a dance for my club for newcomers where we had quite a mix of ages. Um, did you like the idea of standard session and an accelerated learning session, or is that just too much?
Well, basically, my comment would be if you've got somebody who's really struggling, then maybe you want to take advantage of some of your more experienced dancers to have them taken aside and coached.
I think that'd be helpful. The only thing is you're thinking very specifically there. I'm thinking that your retirees are going to be a little slower, but not not that bad. Maybe. I've certainly seen some older folk who just really struggle with it, and I champion them for when they stick with it and get through. I wasn't thinking that specifically, Gene, just in general, that your younger crowd's going to learn so much faster than the others. I'm just wondering if we ought to be splitting up the the lesson offering.
Yes, Kirk?
Remember, I've seen documentation in the College Teachers Library that suggests that maybe in the space of 15, 20, 25 years ago, there were actually youth clubs on Vancouver Island. Not anymore, but that might be a vehicle to provide an opportunity for younger people to, learn at a club that's designed just for them.
Now, Kurt, do you mean teens and preteens?
Perhaps.
I had an experience the last couple of years. We had a whole bunch of young people doing square dancing. They were homeschoolers, and they were from basically 3 different families. And they of course they were bright, and they were very smart kids. But we also had in the same group older people who'd come to learn square dancing. And I didn't cater to either group. I just taught and called, and we did. And I never had any complaints or any problems from the teens saying, oh, this is too slow, this is not fun. And I didn't use ultra modern music every night, all night long either. I used some of the old stuff too. They never complained about that. So I don't think it's a big issue.
Joe?
Yeah, over the course of my time, I've dealt with a lot of teen groups, and there's no reason why if you have callers who are willing to do it, they will participate. There's certain ones that won't. The biggest club I had probably had 30 or 40 squares in it, but it was run by the adults in local clubs, and they had special rules that the kids would abide by. But the dancing, they got the dance. I revved the speed up because they're, you want to wear them down. And so it was faster speed, and they learned faster. But the adults that could keep up, they loved it. The ones that didn't want to do that, they didn't have to. Self-promotion. I do have several books published on square dancing for kids from 4 to 94. I hope nobody's over 94 because I don't want to leave anybody out. But it's made for teachers that don't square dance themselves. So all they have to do is put on any kind of music they can dance to. And I've even had kids read the text to the kids in the class and call, and it's worked out. And if you want to go into schools and all, you can do it. I don't know that you're going to find we're grandparent and great grandparents level ages now. So I think many of us and our friends, if we're bringing our grandchildren, I'm not sure how that would work.
Okay,
But I think what Nick said, just call.
Valerie, did you have a comment?
I was just going to comment about the age group. I think it's something that's going to have to be probably individual to what is each area's influx of the people that come in. If you have a group that is large enough to be able to have a teen group that they can, you know, have their own group and kind of be like Lauren said, just because we had lessons on a Monday night for the last 20 years at 7 o'clock doesn't mean that we can't have what is another night to do it on. And just because we've always lumped everybody together in the past doesn't mean that we couldn't have what was a special class of 20 to 30-year-olds, you know, 30 to 40-year-olds, you know, and you know, 40 to 50, whatever the breakdown looks like it's going to be. I find in my own grandparenting experience that when my grandchildren were age 8 to 12-ish, 13, it was like, oh, grandma, let's go here, let's do this, do that, you know, well, let's play. And now that we're getting into 14 and 15, it's like, oh, no, that's okay, grandma, I won't go. And so, you know, maybe that family scenario, kids up to age 12 or 13, they're going to love to come with grandma and grandpa and come with mom and dad. And it'll be a Sunday afternoon charge. It'll be great. But by the time they get to be 15 to age 20, they're going to go, no, we want our own group. And I think if we just work with whatever shows up on our doorstep to be able to accommodate, again, it might take some fast organizing of what is the callers and the clubs in those areas to get those many classes together. But again, it's like Lauren said, you pick a night when most people are available. And if you can get 10 coming on one night and 20 coming on another night, well, I guess you know which night to pick.
What
I really appreciate.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you've just said there, Valerie. Also, in British Columbia, we have 2 Lower Mainland centered youth clubs in Burnaby, the Westburn Wranglers, long running, over 50 years. I was in that club. That's how old I am. And the Delta Sun Dancers, they used to dance in the city of Delta. They're now in Surrey, but we are privileged to have those 2 youth clubs. And of course, the Wheelchair Club. Just before I pass it back to you, Nick, Joe, I could right now message everyone with the names of your books. I don't mind a little promotion here.
I'll have to go dig them out.
Okay.
I've been traveling for the last few years, so everything is pretty much in storage, but it's on Vic. I don't know if anybody uses Vic Cedar's website at all, but it's publicized in my my profile there. It's just square dancing for kids of all ages, really. And the only difference is I have one for kids that are like kindergarten to grade 4, because by the time they get to grade 4, then the learning cognition changes pretty drastically. But it's good for seniors groups or whatever. So I'll have to resurrect those things, because if you're, for instance, if your club, like if Nick decides when he gets to be, say, 95, 96, he wants to rest, well, someone else might want to, you know, you draw straws. And so someone who's a lot younger, like maybe 78, 79, will take over, but they never called. They can open this book, they can read the stuff. And there's plenty of callers that do. They sound like they're reading their material from a Bible, and that's okay. Whatever works. So
I would like to throw in a comment here. Don't forget, we have the Moving and Grooving in BC. Nick, that's Nick's program.
Yeah.
Just to follow that up then, or to conclude that, Joe, Vic Cedar's website would list or show your books. That's cedar.net, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cedar.net.
Yeah.
Well, I'll issue that to everybody here. And I was passing it back to Nick Turner, right? You had a thought?
I just had one comment on the young people who came to join the club. First of all, there were no protests from any of the other dancers. They did not mind, and they absolutely totally welcomed these new young people. Secondly, when they started, they danced in their own square. There happened to be a group of 8. It was just quite fortunate, but they danced in their own square, and nobody tried to break it up. Nobody tried to grab one and drag him or her into their square. And the kids simply danced for probably the first couple 3 weeks. And then suddenly what happens? They just mingled with everybody. They were all over the floor, and it was just great. It was the best experience I've had as a caller, is having those young people.
Do you think, Nick, that's peculiar to a homeschool group who tend to be very well-mannered, well-trained, let's say?
I think so. I mean, yes, these were yeah. There were quite an age difference. The oldest was 24, 23 or 4, but he was the driver. You see, the others didn't have driver's license, so he drove, because there were 6 of them from one family, or 5 of them, or whatever. And so the youngest, I think, was maybe 10 or 11 or 12. And when he used to dance with his sister, who kept him in line. If he started goofing off or anything, she just smacked him around the head, and that was all at the end of it. not quite, but it was. But you know, she put him in his place. But it was great. It was just really great. I've had groups, new dancers, who were really elderly, like in their 70s and 80s, and it was so painful. It was absolutely so painful. I did not continue after Christmas. And we deliberately said, we're only going to do it for the next 2 months when we started, and after that, and yeah, they were painful, really, really, really painful. You'd say go forward
Okay.
and back, and they'd turn around and say, "What?"
Okay, it is after 8. It's just 8:30, shortly after. We could keep discussing this all night long, but I don't think we're going to get any new information out. So, Brian, did you want to conclude, please?
Well, I guess the big thing was what I asked a short while ago, who's in charge? So I nominate all of you. You're all in charge here. Take the reins. Make big changes in readiness for, again, what could be a massive interest. You know, I get this from Daryl Clendenin, a caller from Portland, Oregon. It was Daryl that kind of first came to the fore in my mind, saying that if post-World War II was any example, people were desperate to socialize. They'd been separated through the war years, and square dancing saw one hell of a boom there in the 50s. So he's just thinking there's such a similarity to this pandemic period. I was thinking back to World War One. Look how dancing, socialization on the dance floor, I'm thinking of the Roaring '20s there, really took off when people again were looking to socialize together. So I think it's promising, but somebody needs to be in control. So I nominate all of you. You take over, do wonderful things. We want to see floors of 30 squares, please.
You
That would
wish.
be nice. That would be nice. I will comment that a number of people here, I think the majority are callers tonight, so they're interested in the program. So,
Well,
anyway,
thanks, everybody. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the participation and the good discussion. It's got to go somewhere. We can't blow this. I say again, we can't blow this. We gotta look forward to the possibility of building our recreation. Thank you.